Hey folks, time to check on our tomatoes, our big Malacca tomatoes. This is a little hothouse. If you remember, I built about 3 weeks ago. I think it's about 3 weeks ago, maybe 4. Let's see how they're going now. I can't remember if I put 12 seeds or 15 seeds in here. And this is the makeshift lid that I have. See how it's condensating there? The condensation on top? That'll basically drip down back into the soil and rehydrate it. Let's have a look. And we've got our heat mat as well, because that makes a huge difference. Now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. 15 tomatoes. They've all germinated. Have a look at that. That's big and strong and healthy. Second that. And our heat mat thermostat's working at 24 degrees. It is nice and warm. That's why it's condensating there. We're going to put this aside. This is not the topic. That was a quick review and see how we're going, catch up on our little tomatoes. If you haven't sown your tomatoes, time to get them in, because spring's only around the corner. You've got about 5 weeks, 6 weeks, and we hit spring, and then about 2 or 3 weeks later, you're going to want to be planting your tomatoes out into the garden. Let's get this aside, because what we're going to do now is make a self-watering pot or a wicking pot. Now, if you don't know what a wicking bed is or a wicking pot is, it's an area where it holds water, like a bathtub, for example, but it's not filled to the top with water. It'll have water about 1/4 of the way up from the bottom, up to about 1/3 of the way. Then there's a material or a layer between the water itself, the water level, and where the soil sits. Now, in that water base or that reservoir at the bottom, normally in wicking beds we put a pebble or a rock that's been washed of all dust so it doesn't become cloggy. And you have your soil on top of that with your plants. So what happens, the roots of the little seedlings, like the ones I got down here, they'll grow through the soil down to the reservoir where the water is, and as a wick of a candle, they will absorb moisture up to hydrate themselves. And what I'm using is an 18 kilo black grit bucket that's just been used in the garden. If you've got one of these, perfect way to do it. You don't need any holes at the bottom like your typical pot. And what you need is first is to get rid of these tomatoes. Let me get these out of the way. All right, so 18 kilo bucket. You need a bit of mesh, like shade cloth, weed mate if you have, old material you don't need anymore. I've cut it to the shape of the bucket itself, a little bit oversized. So when I push it in, it sits up against the walls again like that. So that's the mesh that separates the soil from the rocks. I've got my lid here, and I'll tell you about the lid in a minute. And I've got some of these old rocks lying around at the back of the property there. You can use any type of rock, as long as there's no sediment or soil or grit all over it. And you need to fill this bucket up about 1/3. Oh, see, it's a very shallow bucket, so we'll go about 1/4, about there. That's all I need, and that's going to be our little reservoir. Now, before I do that, I need to explain that this holds water, yes. Now, if this was a large wicking bed or not translucent like this is here, you wouldn't be able to see how much water you've put in there. Now, in the large beds, you normally put an inspection pipe. So it's a PVC pipe that you slide down all the way down to the bottom, and you look inside the pipe and you can see if there's any water in it or not, and you can top it up if you like to. But because this is a small bucket, we haven't got enough room for that. I want to put my seedlings in. I'm going to actually drill a couple of holes so it can overflow. If I put too much water in, it'll drain out. So I set about 1/4 of the way up. So I'm just going to do the old Greek measurement. That's half. Use that line there as half, and half of that is about there. So I'm not going to drill on my little label there. There's one hole, and let's see if we can get that approximately right on the other side. Opposite ends. Doesn't matter if you're not exactly accurate. You can use a tape measure if you want. There we are. There's those two there. Now, I'll tell you about this in a minute. What we do now is we put our rocks up to that hole. Let's have a look at that. Yeah, I think we're just above the hole, so I'm going to take a few out. It's okay. It doesn't have to be 100% accurate, but enough so that we can put our mesh in there on top to cover them neatly. There we are. Like that. All right. And that's your base. That's where your reservoir of water sits. Okay, now on top of that, we're going to put our potting mix. I love Hal's potting mix is what I love using all the time. And this is our seed greens. It's got some seaweed fertiliser added into that, cow manure, and all the other wonderful stuff that goes with it. And it's all organic. There we are. Fill that up like that. Now all we've got to do is put our seedlings in here. Now you can do it in two ways, because you've still got the lid there. And now by using the lid, you're creating a nice mini hothouse, but you need to drill some holes in here. So if you don't want the lid on top, obviously leave it off, but if you do want the lid, I'm going to drill some holes in this so that I can plant my seedlings. Now I'm going to put some of these leftover silverbeet that I got there, because I got so many of them. And in here, you know how big silverbeet get. Even just one will be sufficient, but you know, I'm crazy. I'm going to put 3 in here. So I'm going to drill 3 holes in a triangular formation and put the lid on, and then plant my seedlings. And there you go, that's our lid. Now, if you haven't got a hole saw, don't go out there buying one just to do this. Just don't do it with the lid. Leave the lid off. If you know somebody's got a hole saw, the tools to do it for you, well, obviously get it out there, drill it out. Now, I've positioned my lid there. I'm going to get my seedlings, and you don't have to squeeze it in. Just sitting there is enough. That's enough. It doesn't have to be locked in place. So let's just get some seedlings out here. Here's one. Roots and all. There's that first hole. I'm going to just mark where the holes are, and then I'm going to move the lid out of the way because I need to get it in neatly, like that. Okay, that's one. Okay, there's a couple here. And folks, it's not just silverbeet or vegetables you can plant in here. Plant whatever you like, succulents if you like. You can plant flowering plants, not fruit trees obviously. And there's our 3 silverbeet, neatly done. We put our lid on top. Oh, that wasn't smart, was it? See if I can get them out neatly without squashing them. And the benefit of a wicking bed is, well, you don't have to water it as often. Obviously, at the beginning, while the roots are still developing, the first week or two, you'll need to give, pay attention to it, hydrate it where it needs to be done, because the roots aren't growing all the way down. But as they start to grow, you'll find that you'll basically water it once, and you'll have a look. You'll be able to see if there's any water in there, and that's exactly what we're going to do now. We're going to fill this up with water, but we're also going to add our liquid gold and eco boost to give them the opportunity to be able to grow big, strong, healthy roots. And after that, we'll be able to harvest and enjoy in the kitchen. But the best part about this whole wicking pot, folks, look at that, it's got a handle. So if you've got indoor plants or something that loves a bit of shade and you need to water it, you can just pick it up and move it around. Which way am I going to go? I'm going to go over this way. All right, let's go chase these dogs. Move out of the way, come on. Okay. And give it a water now. Oh, how delicious does that look? Hey, how delicious is that? And I'm just going to keep doing this until it starts running out. Have a look, have a look, have a look. Look at it soaking down. How cool is that? Actually, I've obviously built one of these before, haven't I, eh? It's just my crazy mind that works overtime. It's going to work. You can see the water sitting at the bottom. I've just taken the lid off so it doesn't get too messy. We might just top this up afterwards. Yeah, they're drowning. Don't worry. They'll settle. We want the water to come up here, and you can't overwater it. That's the good thing about it. It'll soak through. If it gets too full, that's why we've got a couple of holes on the side. It'll just drain out. Have a look at that, folks. The overflows are working perfectly. They're going to drain out, and once it's come to its finished level and it stops draining, put it back in place where you need to keep it for plenty of sunlight so they can grow. So if you've got some black grit in your garden, 18 kilo bucket that is, just like this stuff here, once you finish it, don't throw the bucket out. Recycle it, repurpose it, upuse it, whatever they call it. Do something with it, at least make a wicking bed or a wicking pot just like this one. You'll love it. And make sure you put some black grit in there too. Don't waste it all in the garden. Maresi.